let's go make an attempt before it actually gets dark out here, and let's try and get this thing into orbit, shall we? So, let's go in 3, 2, 1. Alright everyone, hello and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program in the career mode with me, Spacefish. It's been a long while. It's been probably like 4 weeks again since I have last played Kerbal Space Program, but what I do know is that we were still taking care of this task of ours to get a rendezvous up and going around the moon with our probe that I can't see right now, which is a bit, discomforting, but zooming in on it, here it is. Okay, so here is our Dart Mark 1, nicely connected to our Kerbal antennas, apparently, so fingers crossed everything is still going just fine up there. But with that said, if you guys do remember, that is not the full mission. We need to go on an orbital spacewalk near the moon and rendezvous 2 vessels in orbit of the moon. So this was really only the first stage of the mission, right? We got the unmanned vessel up to the moon, got it into orbit, and now the next thing we actually need to take care of is getting a manned vehicle, getting it up into orbit around the moon too, get a rendezvous done with this thing, get the, not the astronaut, the Kerbal naut, obviously, back out on a, on a spacewalk, right? And, well, then, we eventually actually need to get him back too. So, interesting task. I do think I remember that we did orbit the moon in a manned spacecraft once, so let's take a look if we do have that vessel still, and we could maybe just reuse it, but we definitely need to pay attention to actually having enough fuel here. That's, I think, a very critical one. But for the time being, let's look at all our different things. Could it even have been... No, it wasn't Jeb's flying saucer, was it? So these darts, I think, are my unmanned vessels, so I'm just going to disregard those. We've got these things, obviously. This little useless satellite Mark 1, I think... Isn't that what we just have up in the moon? No, that can't be the case, right? That would be a bit weird. Wait, let me, before we do this, right? Let me just double check. Because that would be a bit worrying. Okay, no, it's Dart Mark 1 that we shot up there. Alright, where's the little... Huh, somehow this little useless satellite thing, what is that? This thing here. Our second... That hasn't been too long ago, has it? That was the other satellite that we rendezvoused with our other... That's a bit weird. Because, I mean, that was just a few episodes back that we designed that, right? So I'm not really quite sure why that's already invalidated by some sort of patch. Slightly worrying right there, but okay. So, with that said, then... I can really only imagine that it was this rocket that got us all the way up there, but... Or maybe like that one or something. Let's load it. Let's just have a look at it. Oh. That's some interesting design right there, isn't it? Yeah, I do remember that we only had like small tanks and stuff back then. Alright. Well, anyways, I think let's honestly just start from scratch. Not save that. We do have 2 different command ports now. Apparently, we've got a Mark 1, we've got a Mark 2. Kind of interested what the difference is between those. So we've got this thing which is 1.56 tons, so it's got a lot more mass to it. Oh, it can fit an additional crew, so it's bigger. I don't think we need 2 crew though. I think 1 for the time being is more than fine. So let's just keep 1 crew member in there for now. We will most definitely need a parachute because I am planning to get this thing back home. So where would that be? Utility, probably, yes. Okay, so parachute. First and foremost, most important part right there. Now, what else I would actually like to take with me? I would like to actually get some science stuff with me if possible. We've got this experiment storage unit, which I just recently had somebody explain to me very nicely in the comments of the video. That's actually something that I can store my science results in. So I think I would actually like to use that like this. Just put it on top of the thing so it's shielded off from any... Actually, does this have a heat shield? Does this not have its own heat shield? That's definitely a good thing to know right there. So let's get a heat shield on there for a start. But so that the heat shield actually shields that off from exploding, and then I'm just going to store like any science experiments that I may be taking with me in there, and I'm going to detach the science modules before re-entry, because obviously that's a big mass to be carrying around with us on re-entry. So with that said, we had the decoupler and the stack separator. Now, difference here was that one just pushed it away on both sides, and one, I think the stack separator was what I wanted, right? Also a very interesting topic, by the way. Yeah, so this pushes away, so I mean basically this detaches too, right? But also very interesting topic on the decoupler. Somebody just recently commented down below in the videos that you may actually want a decoupler because it doesn't, you know, just kick everything apart as much, so you can just decouple, turn the craft around on space and redock it if you are going for a concept of this sort. So that was a very interesting one, I thought. Now with that said, let's go back down to electrical first. No, actually not electrical, wait. Actually electrical, yes. Electrical is a good start. I am going to get some solar panels on here, not on the hatch. That would probably be a bad idea. And then like, this thing is a bit small, isn't it? I could maybe get that on top of here. Let's just do it like that, maybe. Do we have some sort of payload service bay that we could get things into? Well, that would have to be below the craft, and that's not what I'm really aiming for here, so I'm not going to do that. I don't seem to have any smaller sorts of service modules. Yeah, this one's a bit too big too, so I'm not going to do that then. But well, that's going to be set up that way. We can maybe get an actual protective shell around that. That would probably be a cool idea overall, so let's get that going. Actually, let's not get that going just yet, because I don't have everything set up on the capsule for the time being. So, what else could I need? RCS is always a nice and interesting thing to have, right? And we should have a tiny bit of RCS with us here, yeah. So, just gonna get a few RCS spots on here, I think. Actually, I mean, the thing is, maybe like that, actually. You should have some RCS ports right there, and then one further down on the central stage of the rocket. But yeah, I think like what I'm generally aiming for here is I would just like to make this whole unit a bit more, well, a bit more proper. If that's the right way to put it. Because if you guys know, right, the first few missions I always went very bare bone, right? Like little control surfaces, like no RCS so far, none at all, I don't think, and always a cheap SAS and everything, right? And now that we're going for something like manned again, and it's going to be very far out, I do want to try and put a lot of thought into it, if that makes much of any sense. I hope it does. So, we're going to need some fuel tanks, and I'm going to... Drain valve. That's actually interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Okay, that's definitely a new thing. I didn't know about that yet, but I would like something RCSE for a start, so I would need some monopropellant. I'm not sure... Well, that's a monopropellant tank right there, but do we not have, like, something else that's, like, somewhat inline? Doesn't actually look like it, does it? Huh. Slightly annoying, so we would need to actually take this thing here, which I really dislike. But I suppose that's going to be the way that we're doing it for now, because we don't have an alternative to that, apparently. With that said, though, I would like to get a Science Junior on here. So we are going to get that right out there. I'm going to get like one of these things out there, and then we're just going to get like one of each. I am not actually sure how many of these we already did, but I'm pretty sure we haven't like physically recovered all the science from all these places. So I would like to, now that we have this little science box up here, how many can that actually, is that limited in how many it can store? I hope it isn't, because if it is, that's going to be pretty painful. But yeah, I would think that somewhere we have definitely not recovered the science, so I would like to definitely get that back, because I think we need to go somewhere further along the way in terms of science and actually proceed in that regard. So I would like to try and get some more stuff back that way. Okay, so that's it for like the overall instrumental core. I did sort of forget something here, which was the fairing that I wanted to go for. Let's just double check before we go for this that I haven't missed anything. Don't need anything in terms of aerodynamics, coupling, structural is all fine. We actually have some arms already? Well, it's just hinge. Okay. Hinges, servos, very, very interesting. All new stuff that I didn't know up until now. But other than that, you know, electrical, we do have a battery up top. We've got 2 solar panels right there. We don't have an antenna, but we don't really need it because, well, we've got an astronaut in there, right? So we don't need to steer this whole thing using a signal or anything. It's apparently a photovoltaic panel that can be set up by trained engineers. Interesting. How do you get that into places? Very, very interesting. Definitely something interesting to look at in the future, but nothing that I'm going to be doing just yet. I've actually got... I like this idea, to be honest. Can we get that on there? I think that would be a great thing to do. Question being... how do I turn this the proper way? Can we, like... I am sort of out of turning... I've got no clue how to turn this the proper way that I want it to be. Ah, no. I want it to be pointing upwards, not downwards. Please, somebody help me. I'm just going to press all the button until I find it. I think. Unless I break the whole rocket, which hopefully I won't. Oh, right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I would like to get one of these up here, sorta. Kind of worried that that will kind of explode on re-entry, to be honest. It's definitely not protected by the heat shield anymore, so that's a bit of a worry here. Maybe I can get it more like down here instead. It looks a bit better. So I'm going to keep it like that. Fingers crossed that that will work out for us. But I would just like to use this lamp to, you know, facilitate the approach to the unmanned thingy. I also need to get rid of that. But to facilitate the approach pretty much to help us find what we are looking for in space. Now, what I will be doing here real quick is... I've got no clue how action groups work anymore. Ha! Okay. I mean, I've got my custom action groups. I'm just not quite sure how I would actually toggle those. So I would toggle the light on my custom action group one. I would hope that that is my one key. But I'm actually not 100% sure here. But I hope that it's that. So that's set up, theoretically. Fingers crossed that it'll work the way that I intend... Sorry for that one. The way that I actually intended to, but we will actually not have a way to test it while we're on the ground, because if you guys remember, I wanted, and why is this not in aerodynamics? Where is it even at? I wanted to get a fairing on there. I guess it's here, right? Yeah. Okay. So, payload also makes a good bunch of sense, I suppose. So, we are going to go and get a cone. I mean, no, that doesn't work because of the light. So. I would like to set up a somewhat straight cone for there, and then we're just gonna slim it further once we go towards the top, and there we go. Okay, cool. So that fairing is set up, the central command module is set up, the science module is set up, we've got some SAS, we've got some RCS tanks. That doesn't quite complete the final stage for me. I would definitely like to take some fuel with me in the final stage. Not too much though. So let's see what kind of tanks we have right there. We've got this one, which I really like so far. We've got that one, which I think is a bit too big, to be honest. I would be going with this one right here, just for the final stage, and then we would have an engine which is probably this one, right? This one was very efficient in vacuum. So we're going to take that engine for the vacuum, then I'm going to go to command and control again and actually place some RCS, some RCS thingies out here too. And now I don't know, it's like, I'm really not too great anymore at, no, wait, what? No, that's the symmetry. How did oh my god, I just forgot the shortcut that I was just using it for like 5 bajillion years. And I've got no clue how to bring it back. I would just like to please note, God, I'm like, I am terribly sorry, but I've got absolutely no clue anymore of how this used to work. Oh, there it was. Alright. X. Great. Now, snap, I'm not sure too much about anymore, but here we go. I have found my key binding again, and there we go, setting up that RCS. Okay, cool. So with that said, that's going to be like kind of my primary stage. Now, I obviously need something to carry me to orbit and carry me over to the moon, and I am going to make that a bit more massive just to ensure that we will have a bunch of fuel for this stuff. I don't want actually a decoupler. I would prefer a stack separator, so that's what we're going to get going right here. I am going to go, no, not engines. I'm going to go and set up some fuel tanks first, which I would I like to make this small? I think I don't want to make this a big rocket or something. I have not been too happy with the performance of the super large ones so far. So, I would actually, I think, how would I go about this? Not 100% sure. No, I think I would like to make this a big central stage pretty much. Maybe not quite as big, maybe somewhat like that. Then we would have a... Which one of these two is more efficient? I mean, I like the 45 because it gives me the swivel. So that's kind of helpful. Now I've got some random Discord pop up right there. I don't see anything anymore. The 30 is a lot more. But it gives me the ability to steer. So I'm going to go for the 45 right here just to make sure that we have some more stability within the atmosphere. Then we're definitely going to need some radial decouplers. I'm going to choose big ones because I'm going to take some big solid fuel boosters for this thing. And then I would like to take either of these. This one has a lot of thrust, obviously. It's probably going to be massive too, though, right? Holy moly. I'm not sure if this is overkill or not, to be honest. I mean, that's some massive solid fuel boosters right there. We could also go for these, which are not quite as massive, obviously. Takes 700 meters a second from the equation, pretty much. Now, I've only got 380 meters a second in this upstage, apparently. Let me kind of think this through, right? I'm pretty sure I can easily use like 3k just getting myself on the Kerbin orbital insertion burn. And then this 380 meters a second I'm really not too confident about. Then again, I'm not quite sure if this is counting it within the atmosphere. Yeah, this seems to be counting it within the atmosphere, right? ISP 85. Now this thing will eventually have an ISP... Where's my ISP at now? Yeah, of 345. So I will have a lot more speed in that thing than it actually is showing me right now, which is great. It really is just... Can I just change the simulation? Oh, vessel situation. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so if I go to the moon, 1544. Okay, that's a lot more delta V in there. I would just assume these other two based on atmosphere, even though I would guess that's also subject to change. Oh wait, yeah, okay. So we can actually go vacuum sea level. Okay, so we will generally, the higher up we go, get a bit more efficiency out of it. So we can probably assume that I've got maybe like 4.5k meters a second in this, and then like another 1.5 in this. So I think that should be fine. I don't think we will need the extra big solid fuel boosters right there. I'll get some aerodynamics going up. Oh no, wait, yeah, wrong category. So I'm gonna get some aerodynamic cones up on this thing. Just always place these things, you always need to place like this. Don't ask me why, it's just kind of a bit weird that way. If you try and do it like this, like you normally would, it just does that for whatever reason. So if you have that issue yourself, just do this and you're going to be fine. Now with that said, I'm definitely going to need some structural components. I'm going to get a good bunch of struts to attach these things firstly to each other, and then secondarily to the structure. I'm not sure if anything has basically changed about this very essential rule in KSP, but well, in general, the rule that you always wanted to abide to in KSP is get as many struts as you can. Do not save on struts. It's like the #1 rule I've learned in my many years of KSP, and I'm pretty sure that's still in effect today, so I'm definitely not going to save on that. Now we've also got the winglets and the fins. Now for fins, I actually got the feedback that it would be a great idea to actually do something something along those lines. So like actually angle them so like the rocket goes into a spin to kind of stabilize its self. That does not make much of any sense, does it? Wait a second. Let me fix that. That doesn't make much of any sense. We're going to get a proper decoupler on there. We're going to need this one. Then we're going to get that one. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, but yeah, so that was a great idea, but what I've also seen, what we have in the meantime, is we've got these winglets, and the winglets actually have some steering to them. They've got some deflection, so that will give us a bunch more control, so I would actually like to get some of these winglets on here instead. And I'm going to get a set of maybe even more than 4 on here. No, maybe not on the solid fuel boosters. I think we're going to get a few winglets on here too. Just in the middle of this, maybe like not glitched into the struts. I'm sure that's not going to cause any issues, but you know, you can never be quite sure, so I would like to make sure that we're good on that side of things. But yeah, with that said and done, that should hopefully give us a lot more control about this thing on the start, and kind of avoid the spin-outs that we had as of late, because I would say that we probably had a lot of them. Cool. So I'm pretty sure that's like our general setup here. I'm just going to go through the components, kind of see if we have anything that I would still want on here, but overall I'm pretty happy with that, and I don't really see much of anything that we would still want here. I'm not going to put any parachutes on these, by the way, anymore. I really like the idea, and it seems there's like some recoverability, but I'm always having issues with it, right? Like, it always seems like as of late that these things just disappear. I don't know, maybe when they leave rendering distance, or maybe something else, or maybe they just explode because I don't have enough parachutes on that. I'm really not 100% sure. If you guys have some tips for me regarding reusability, and maybe like how many parachutes do you need, or does it even work when you go out of render distance or something, definitely make sure to let me know down below. I would be very, very interested about that, if it's actually possible to get reusability on these things in by, for example, using a parachute. I'm really absolutely not sure. I've got no clue, so you know, please, if you have any idea, enlighten me. But for the time being, I'm just gonna stop that little practice of mine. I'm not gonna do that anymore. Now, I will also have to set up the staging properly, so let me do that. This fairing is definitely going to go before we ignite this engine, so I'm gonna move that down here, and then let me just see. So we've got parachute, we've got this decouple, we've got that engine ignite, we've got that fairing, we've got that decouple right there. Could probably also actually, no, I don't want to have that in the same stage, to be honest, but we can probably have it ahead of that decouple stage. I think that makes more sense. So we will decouple fairing, we've got the engine ignite for this, which I'm going to put down here. And we've got this separation, which will take place once these solid fuel boosters have burned out. Okay, cool, great stuff. So, we will call this a very nice name that just sprung to my mind. Something more creative than you guys are probably used to by now. We will call this the Munar Magic Mark 1. So, I hope you guys like that. If you have, by the way, any suggestions for the names for my spacecraft, definitely let me know down below. I would absolutely love that. For the time being, I'm doing it all myself. I still don't have my mission flag in here, which makes me quite sad. We need to get that on here before we set our foot on the moon. I had that going a few updates back. I think it was still on my old PC though, so I will need to actually dig that up from the backup files that I made from my old PC. So fingers crossed I still have that somewhere. But I would definitely like to get that going again. Now with that said, let's go ahead and launch. We don't really have that much time left in this episode, but I would like to at least make one attempt at this launch and try and get ourselves up into the atmosphere. That said, I totally, by the way, totally absolutely forgot about some, what do you even call those? Well, the connectors, you know, that you hold the rocket on. Now it's just standing on its feet. It's doing so pretty nicely apparently, but still a bit of a worrying thing. Now that said, let's go make an attempt before it actually gets dark out here, and let's try and get this thing into orbit, shall we? So, let's go in 3, 2, 1, and launch. Holy moly, that thing has a lot of power. Okay, I'm definitely going to slow that down by a lot. I'm basically just going to turn off the main engine for now, because we should have some control using these surfaces, which it looks like we do. So I'm just going to slowly, very, very slowly turn us over, trying to avoid any major flipping in the meanwhile. I am going to give a bit of power from the main engine just to make sure that we're going at a decent speed, so that once these solid fuel boosters run out, we won't be in a situation where the main engine can't get us into orbit anymore because we just weigh that much. So I'm going to speed that up fully now just to ensure that we have a lot of speed going on there. And as you can see down there, I'm just very, very, very slowly tilting this rocket over right now. We're getting out of the thicker parts of the atmosphere, which I think is very, very great news. Getting a bit toasty out here now, so I'm gonna throttle the main engine down a bit again, and we are just going to keep doing that turn. And as the atmosphere gets thinner and thinner, I'm gonna turn it harder and harder, because I think the risk of flipping through aerodynamics does become lower by that point. Solid fuel boosters are burning out now, so there they go. Goodbye. Thanks a lot for your help, guys. And we will be making our final insertion turn right here now. So I think we're probably already going up into space. Let me check that out. Oh, whoa, holy moly. Okay. May have used up a bit much power right there, and turned a bit slowly for that orbital insertion. We're going up to 380,000 meters right now. 40,000, 340,000, which is absolutely mad. But look at this thing. I think it looks pretty great. I think I turned a bit too slowly. I was kind of hesitant there, because if you guys can remember, we had a bunch of incidents with that stuff as of late, where I just totally spiraled out of control, so I didn't want to overdo it. But these fins, I have to say, kept us in a very, very nice and stable alignment, so I would definitely go a bit harder on that one the next time, I think. That said, we're in space, so I'm very happy with that. I'm just going to speed up time a bit so we can get ourselves up here. I am actually going to add a maneuver now, and, well, we're going to see how much delta V we need. I mean, honestly, the thing is, we want to go to the moon anyway, so, well, a bit more altitude is not going to be that much of an issue. It is kind of a bit of a waste, though, right? Through like orbital burns, we could have probably saved ourselves a bit of fuel here, but that is what it is, I suppose. So that said, I need to, I think, do I need to get rid of time warp? Yeah, I need to get rid of time warp to turn the spacecraft, which is good. I'm pretty sure. I do remember the times when that totally ripped apart the spacecraft years back, so Probably a good idea to have it that way. So we've got a burn time of 1 minute 23 seconds, so we want to start at like 41, 42-ish seconds, I suppose. That's going to be kind of the time that we want to hit. So I'm going to stop it right here. And was it C that gave me max burn? Let me try this out in a second here. Let me go and burn? Nope. That's definitely not it. Y. Okay, very interesting. So Y for max burn and X to cut the burn. I'm going to try and use Y a bit more often then. If you guys haven't seen the previous episodes, I've really just found out about that Y thing by totally fat fingering the X button all the time and totally raging about it, and that way getting my rocket into all the wrong orbital planes. But, well, now we do at least know about that. So, that said, we are already in orbit high above Kerbin, aren't we? Look at that beautiful planet. I absolutely love it. The more I see this game, the more I just can't wait for a KSP2. It's going to be awesome, I think. I really, really am looking forward to it. It's a bummer that they delayed it, but then again, on the other hand side, I'm also really, really looking forward to seeing what that game is going to have in stock for us, and what we'll get from it, how great it will be. I am hopeful that it will be pretty cool. That said, let me realign this rocket. We are slightly off course here. If it could stay in that alignment, that would also be pretty nice. Just looks like we just entered orbit though, and we are going to cut off about now. I'm just going to readjust, just making sure that we're on the right path here. Gonna burn those last few meters a second, and I think that's pretty fine. Look at that orbit, pretty much spot on. Great stuff. Okay, so please, again, I am again not able to. Yeah, was it that I had to? No, I think I swapped down here to maneuver 1, yeah, and then I can delete it. So this has something to do with it. I'm really not quite sure here. This thing, though, very, very handy to see that. But look at this. We're up in space. Isn't that beautiful? So that said, this engine is already ignited, so we can just stage here. There goes the fairing. Here goes our pod. Jeb is super happy because he finally sees Kerbin again from all the way up here. He sees the sun. He sees how high up he is. And what a beautiful view it is indeed, right here from Kerbin orbit. Now, as you guys can see, we've got about, well, it's saying 1611 right now, but we're going to ditch a good bunch of weight. So it's going to be about 2200 meters a second left in this stage, which I am hopeful is going to be enough to get us out to the moon and back home, fingers crossed right there. But with that said, I think it is now finally time to end the already a bit longer than usual episode right here. So I do hope that you all did enjoy this episode, and if you did, please make sure to hit that like button down below. And if you're new around here and like this video and would like to stay around for more of Jeb's journey towards the moon and more other content of mine, definitely also make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, as well as the bell icon right next to it, to stay up to date on any future upcoming episodes. And with that said, as always, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. I hope you had a great time. I hope you'll have a great weekend, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.